Have you ever felt the quiet pressure to keep up? To speak louder just to be noticed, to move faster just to feel like you're not being left behind? In a world that rewards noise and speed, those who slow down and stay silent are often misunderstood. But maybe silence is not weakness. Maybe it's wisdom in disguise. The Stoics believed that power is not something you show, but something you hold. The strongest person in the room is rarely the one demanding attention. It's the one who doesn't flinch, who doesn't chase, who doesn't need to prove anything. They walk with a calm that cannot be bought, and carry a discipline that no applause can give. To outsmart others silently is not about deception. It is about mastering your impulses, protecting your energy, and choosing presence over performance. When the world pulls you into battles that don't matter, the Stoic steps back. Not to retreat, but to observe. To act with intention, not reaction. Today, we begin a different kind of path. One where silence is not emptiness, but clarity. Where stillness is not laziness, but control. Where the quiet mind becomes sharper than any argument, and your restraint becomes your greatest strength. If you've ever wanted to rise without shouting, to lead without forcing, to build power without stress, then this is for you. Stay with me. What you'll discover might not only change the way you see others, but the way you understand yourself. Number 1. Observe more than you speak. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the pressure to speak, to contribute, to prove that you belong? Most people do. They feel the weight of silence, the discomfort of being unnoticed, the anxiety that if they don't say anything they might be forgotten. But there is another kind of presence, a quiet one, a deliberate one, and the Stoic knows it well. In a world filled with noise where everyone is trying to be heard, there is immense power in being the one who simply sees, who watches with clarity, and chooses his words with purpose. To observe more than you speak is not to shrink or hide. It is to reclaim your energy, to shift your attention away from performance and toward perception. It's about learning to read the room before you enter the conversation. While others are quick to respond, to interrupt, to make sure their voice dominates, the observer sits back, not out of fear, but out of strategy. He pays attention to what people say, but even more to what they avoid saying. He listens to the rhythm of speech, the inconsistencies, the body language that reveals the truth no words can disguise. The Stoics taught us that speech should be measured, not excessive. That wisdom isn't about how many opinions you have, but how well you see what matters. When you speak less, you hear more, not just words, but intention. Not just what's being communicated, but why it's being said. You start noticing what others miss, the tension in someone's voice when they speak about success, the hesitation before they answer a question, the overcompensation hiding fear. You see ego when others see confidence. You see confusion where others see certainty. And over time, you become a master of the unseen. Imagine being in a business meeting filled with smart, accomplished people. One by one they speak, each trying to outshine the last, each pitch louder than the one before it. But in the corner sits one man, silent. He isn't disengaged, he's paying close attention. He watches the shifting alliances, the body language, the unspoken reactions. He sees the power dynamics at play, the motives behind the masks. And when he finally speaks, he cuts through the noise. He doesn't repeat what's been said, he addresses what no one else dared to name. And because he waited, because he saw deeply, his words shift the direction of the entire room. That is the influence of the quiet mind. But this isn't just a tactic for meetings or negotiations. Observation is a philosophy of life. When you choose to observe, you shift from being a performer to being a student of reality. You stop trying to control how people see you and start focusing on understanding the truth of things, how people operate, what drives them, where they're vulnerable. The world starts to open itself to you in ways you couldn't access before, not because you became louder, but because you became more attentive. And let's be clear, this doesn't mean passive silence. It's not about withdrawing or disappearing. It's active presence. You're reading people, you're tracking their energy, you're storing what matters and letting go of the rest. You're watching how someone reacts under pressure, how they treat those who can do nothing for them, how they speak when they think no one important is listening. These are not things you can see if you're too busy trying to make an impression. There's a reason the wisest people are often the quietest in the room. They're not quiet because they have nothing to say. They're quiet because they are taking in everything. And when they speak from a place of precision. Their words don't just fill space, they move it. Their silence isn't awkward, it's authoritative. They've trained themselves to pause, to wait, to let the noise pass, so that what they say cuts through with clarity. This is why the Stoics warned against unnecessary speech. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Let no act be done without a purpose, nor otherwise than according to the perfect principles of art." That applies to words too. Speak with purpose or remain silent. Let every word be chosen, not blurted. Let every sentence serve something beyond the impulse to be heard. When you speak less, your words start to carry more weight, because people learn that when you speak, it matters. But the power of observation doesn't end with how you see others. It's also how you see yourself. When you stop constantly trying to express and explain, you begin to reflect. You hear your own thoughts more clearly. You become aware of the habits, fears, and motivations that drive your choices. You start to ask better questions. You begin to wonder, why did that bother me? What am I trying to prove? Is this the wisest use of my time, my energy, my attention? And you catch yourself before you speak out of pride, before you react out of emotion, before you entangle yourself in noise that has nothing to do with your path. There's freedom in that. When you're no longer controlled by the need to be understood, you become someone who understands. When you don't rush to prove your point, you're free to refine your thinking. And when you stop broadcasting your every move, you become unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. Others can't preempt you, they can't provoke you, they can't manipulate you, because you've given them nothing to work with. Silence also gives you strategic depth. In a world obsessed with exposure, the man who withholds, who waits, who listens, is not only rare, he is dangerous in the best way. People can't quite figure him out. They wonder what he knows, what he's planning. His presence becomes a question mark, and that question mark commands attention. Not the kind of attention that fades when the noise moves on, but the kind that deepens over time. Respect born not of volume, but of gravity. The man who observes more than he speaks becomes like water, still but strong. He adapts, but never bends to foolishness. He doesn't waste time in arguments that prove nothing. He doesn't take the bait of emotional games. He doesn't scatter his attention chasing after admiration. He is focused. He is grounded. And because of that, he moves with intention. So how do you begin? Start small. In your next conversation, resist the urge to interrupt. Let the silence breathe. Listen not just to the words, but to the tone, the pauses, the emotion beneath the surface. Observe your own reactions. Ask yourself, what is this moment really about? In the spaces between the noise, that's where truth lives. And don't be afraid of the discomfort that comes with silence. Most people fill the silence because they can't bear to be alone with their thoughts. But you're not most people. You're training yourself for something deeper. You're building the kind of inner stillness that doesn't flinch in chaos. The kind of clarity that doesn't rush for answers. The kind of presence that reshapes every room it enters. The discipline to observe more than you speak isn't just about gaining insight. It's about building power from the inside out. It's about knowing more than you say, seeing more than you show, and moving with such deliberate purpose that nothing can knock you off course. In the end, those who observe with wisdom speak with force. Their silence builds their strength, and their words, when finally spoken, become impossible to ignore. Let this be your foundation, because what comes next requires the kind of presence only observation can teach. Number 2, let action be your voice. There's something deeply stoic about the man who builds in silence. In a world where everyone is trying to be seen, trying to be validated, trying to be praised for what they haven't even finished, the one who chooses to stay quiet and simply work, that man becomes different. Not because he has nothing to say, but because his actions are already speaking for him. The Stoics didn't value noise, they valued discipline. Seneca said it plainly, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." And that's where real power begins, not in talking, but in living. We live in an age of constant performance. Social media begs us to declare our goals before we've even begun. Everyone's in a hurry to post their plans, to show their hustle, to prove their ambition. But here's the thing, the more you talk about what you're going to do, the less energy you often have left to do it. The Stoic chooses a different route. He doesn't announce, he acts. Not to impress, not to be praised, but because he knows what he wants and he's willing to do the work in silence again and again and again. There is a quiet power in the person who doesn't need to be seen to feel secure, who doesn't need applause to stay motivated, who doesn't seek attention, because they've already earned their own respect. And when that kind of person enters a room, you feel it. Not because they're loud, but because they carry themselves with the confidence of someone who has been doing the hard work long before anyone was watching. They don't need to prove anything. Their life proves it for them. Picture a young man beginning his journey in martial arts. He shows up to the gym every morning at 5. No one's filming him. No one's asking him what his plan is. And he doesn't volunteer it either. He trains, he sweats, he repeats the same drills for weeks. While others brag about their goals or post inspirational quotes online, he stays focused. Months pass. One day, during a sparring session, someone who's never paid him any attention watches him move with precision and strength. And they ask, quietly, "Who is that guy?" That's the point. When your actions speak loud enough, introductions become unnecessary. This principle applies everywhere. At work, in your personal life, in moments of pain and resilience. You don't have to tell everyone how strong you are. Show it. Not once, not twice, but every single day through small, consistent choices. Don't tell people you're disciplined. Let them see it in the way you carry yourself, in your ability to stay calm under pressure, in your refusal to quit even when it's hard. Let your presence be proof that you've been doing the work when no one was clapping. There's a subtle freedom that comes when you stop needing to announce your every move. When you begin to treat your goals as sacred, as something private, not because you're hiding, but because you respect the process too much to perform it for an audience. The Stoic builds like that, quietly, steadily, without needing affirmation. He sets the standard for himself. And in doing so, he reclaims all the energy most people waste trying to convince others they're doing something worthwhile. I remember meeting an old sculptor once. He didn't have a flashy studio, no online portfolio, no viral videos. Just a small, quiet space where he worked with stone and wood. His hands were strong, his eyes calm. Every piece he created carried a kind of silent gravity. People didn't come to him because he advertised. They came because word spread, one piece at a time, year after year. His work spoke for him. And when someone asked why he never promoted himself, he said, "If the work is honest, it will find its voice." That is what Stoicism looks like in action. When you move like that, when you choose consistent action over constant noise, you begin to build something within yourself that can't be taken away. It's not just about achieving goals. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to shout, the kind of person who can walk away from recognition because they've already earned their own approval. There's strength in that, the kind of strength that doesn't fade when the applause dies down. But let's be honest, it's tempting to talk, to tell people what you're planning, to explain your dreams, to lay out your steps, to seek encouragement when the path gets lonely. And that's human. But the Stoic understands that every word you speak about your goal is energy leaving your body. Every time you tell someone what you're going to do, you borrow a little dopamine without having earned it. So instead, he withholds. He waits. He uses that energy to build, not to broadcast. It's not about secrecy. It's about focus. You protect your path when you stop needing others to walk it with you. You stay grounded when you stop looking sideways for applause. And you move faster when your only competition is the man you were yesterday. The Stoic doesn't hide his progress, but he doesn't flaunt it either. When the results come, they speak loud enough. And more importantly, they speak honestly. Think of someone going through a personal battle, maybe it's grief, or rebuilding after failure, or starting over from nothing. The temptation is to explain, to justify, to defend. But there is a different kind of strength in the person who carries their burden silently, who heals quietly, who rebuilds without making a scene. Because when the dust settles, they emerge not only stronger, but cleaner, untouched by the need for sympathy or validation. And that kind of strength, the strength of quiet recovery, is rare. So, here's the challenge. Can you build without needing to be seen? Can you love the work more than the reward? Can you trust that what you're doing in silence today will echo into the world tomorrow in ways you can't even predict? If you can, then you're already ahead of most people, because most people chase attention. But the Stoic chases alignment, mastery, integrity. He doesn't need to be understood. He needs to be true to himself. The truth is, people may not notice right away. You might work for months or years without recognition, but if your work is honest, if your growth is real, it will eventually become undeniable. That's what makes this way of living so powerful. Even in a world of noise, truth still cuts through. And the man who works quietly, who moves with purpose, who lets his actions speak, he becomes a force that cannot be ignored. So set your intentions in silence. Wake up and move toward them with discipline. Let others wonder what you're doing. Let them underestimate you. Let them talk while you build. Because when the time comes, when your results appear, they won't just speak, they'll echo. And you'll know, deep in your bones, that you didn't just achieve something, you became someone. This is how the Stoic outsmarts the world. Not with noise, not with declarations, but with action. Quiet, consistent, unwavering action. And from here, we step into the next truth, a kind of silence that not only builds power, but shields it. Number 3, master detachment. There's a kind of power that most people will never understand. It's not loud. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't come from status or applause. It comes from detachment, from the ability to walk through life without needing anything from it. Most people are owned by their desires. They are ruled by outcomes, by opinions, by success, by failure. But the Stoic knows, the moment you no longer need what the world can give or take away, you become free. Detachment isn't about indifference. It's not about giving up or not caring. It's about caring correctly. It's about pouring yourself fully into the present moment, into your work, into your principles, but refusing to be enslaved by what comes after. You do your best, not because of what you hope to gain, but because it's who you are. That's where the real strength is, not in chasing results, but in choosing your response again and again, with calm, with reason, with dignity. The Stoics had a word for this, amor fati, love of fate. Not just acceptance of what happens, but a wholehearted embrace. To meet life on its terms, not yours. To see loss and gain, praise and blame, not as signs of your worth, but as neutral events that test and refine your character. Imagine living in a way where nothing could disturb your peace, not because you're numb, but because you've trained your mind to stay grounded in what you can control. That's the core of detachment. Control what is yours, release what is not. And what is yours? Your thoughts, your choices, your attitude, your actions. What is not yours? Other people's opinions, outcomes, the future, the past. You begin to master yourself the moment you stop trying to control what was never yours to begin with. Think of a warrior. One is obsessed with winning. He fears defeat, craves approval, and ties his self-worth to victory. His mind is clouded by anxiety. He fights with tension, afraid to make a mistake. The other warrior is different. He trains with discipline. He prepares with care. But once he steps onto the battlefield, he lets go. He's not there to win. He's there to fight with honor. He fights freely, clearly, because he has nothing to protect except his integrity. Which one do you think moves with more power? Always the one who is detached. You see it in everyday life too. A man applies for a job. He does his best in the interview, presents his qualifications, but he doesn't obsess over the result. Whether they hire him or not doesn't shake his peace. He knows his worth wasn't decided in that room. A woman loves deeply, but she doesn't cling. She's present, kind, generous, but if the relationship ends, she doesn't collapse. Her identity wasn't built on being needed, and in that strength, in that freedom, lies a kind of quiet authority that can't be faked. I once knew a trader who never talked much. While others were constantly checking numbers, bragging about wins, panicking over losses, he remained calm. Win or lose, his posture never changed. Someone once asked him how he stayed so unaffected. He said, "I don't bet to feel powerful. I bet because I've done the work. If it hits, good. If it doesn't, I learn." That man didn't chase emotions. He mastered them, and because of that, even in a volatile environment, he was the most stable presence in the room. Detachment is not about being cold or distant. It's about protecting your peace by refusing to be pulled in 1,000 directions by things that are not under your control. When someone insults you, you don't need to react. Let it pass. When someone praises you, accept it, but don't let it define you. And when something you cared about slips away, feel the loss, but don't become it. We've all seen what happens when people are desperate to be liked, to be seen, to be admired. They become puppets, easy to provoke, easy to manipulate. Their mood rises and falls with every compliment or criticism, but the Stoic is unmoved, not because he feels nothing, but because he understands where true power lives, within. So how do you practice detachment? You start by asking the right question. Is this within my control? If the answer is no, release it. If the answer is yes, act with intention. When you're praised, don't let it swell your pride. When you're criticized, don't let it wound your spirit. Let both pass like wind through open hands. You are not what people say. You are what you do, what you choose, what you believe in the quiet moments when no one is watching. This mindset changes everything. You start working not to impress, but to improve. You love not to possess, but to connect. You lead not to be followed, but to serve. Your identity becomes grounded not in results, but in your effort, your values, your principles. And in that space, where you no longer need the world to validate you, you become untouchable. It's not easy. Sometimes you'll be tempted to cling to outcomes, to opinions, to rewards. But that's exactly where the training is. In those moments, remind yourself, I do not control what comes, only how I meet it. I do not need certainty to be at peace. I need only to live by my values and to let the rest unfold as it will. And slowly, something shifts. You become less reactive, less anxious, more focused. You stop arguing to be right. You stop proving yourself to people who never saw you clearly anyway. You begin to walk lighter, speak less, listen more. You laugh easier, not because life got easier, but because your grip on it loosened. At the end of the day, the one who expects nothing cannot be disappointed. The one who clings to nothing cannot be broken. And the one who fears nothing cannot be controlled. That is the essence of Stoic detachment. It's not escape, it's strength. It's not surrender, it's clarity. It's the decision to live fully, freely, and without the weight of what does not belong to you. And once you begin to live this way, once you truly master detachment, then something remarkable happens. You stop needing the world to understand you. You stop chasing victory. You begin to live for something deeper. And that, my friend, prepares you for the next lesson, how to turn your stillness into strength. Number 4. Build an unshakable character. Let's talk about the final and most powerful way to outsmart the world. So quiet that most won't see it coming, so enduring that nothing can compete with it. It's not a clever tactic. It's not a manipulative strategy. It's not something you can post about or explain easily. It's something you become, something you forge. And that something is character. Solid, steady, deeply rooted character. We live in a time where everything moves fast, reacts fast, breaks fast. One setback can make a person quit. One insult can trigger a meltdown. One challenge can make someone abandon their values. In this fragile world, the man who remains grounded becomes dangerous. Not because he is violent or loud, but because he is stable, like a mountain, unshaken by storms, unmoved by chaos. The Stoics understood this long before the world forgot. That real strength is not the ability to fight everything, but the ability to be unchanged by it. To outsmart without stress is not about controlling people. It's about not being controlled by them. It's not about winning every argument. It's about being so secure in who you are that you don't need to argue. You don't need to explain. You don't need to chase anything to feel complete. Your existence becomes a quiet resistance against everything fake, reactive, and shallow. But make no mistake, this kind of inner strength doesn't happen by accident. You can't buy it. You can't fake it. You can't talk your way into it. It has to be built slowly through years of invisible labor, through choices made in solitude, through discomfort endured in silence, through discipline kept when no one else is watching. This isn't a sprint. It's not something you do once and forget. It's a way of life. Start with your daily habits, what you feed your mind, how you talk to yourself when you fail, the way you treat people who can't benefit you, the way you respond when things go wrong. That's where it begins, with small decisions that seem insignificant, but over time they shape your identity. The Stoic doesn't train for the stage. He trains for the storm, because he knows that life will test him, not in front of an audience, but in the quiet moments when no one is looking and no one is coming to help. We tend to think character is about big, heroic acts, but that's not how it works. It's about the small moments. Choosing truth when lying would be easier. Choosing patience when anger feels justified. Choosing to stand alone when the crowd takes the easy path. Every time you make those decisions, you become a little more solid, and every time you don't, a piece of your foundation crumbles. You don't build character in comfort, you build it when you choose virtue over convenience. And yes, it will be lonely sometimes. You'll look around and see others cutting corners, chasing applause, choosing the shortcut, and you'll be tempted. You'll wonder if it's worth it to stay the course. But here's what you must remember. They are building a house of straw. You are building one of stone. It will take longer. It will hurt more. But when the winds come, when the world shakes, only one of those houses will still be standing. There's a man I once knew who lived this out with quiet brilliance. He lost everything, his company, his friends, his health. But he never lost himself. He didn't become bitter. He didn't lash out. Every day, he woke up early. He read the ancient texts. He reflected. He served others. He didn't speak much, but when he did, people listened. Not because he was charismatic, but because his words came from a place of depth. When someone once asked him how he stayed so composed, he said, "Because I never stopped being who I said I was." That's what character looks like. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to be flashy to be effective. You need to be consistent. Quietly, patiently, fiercely consistent. When others collapse under pressure, you remain still. When others panic, you breathe. When others follow the crowd, you walk your own path. That's how character reveals itself, not in comfort, but in adversity. And ironically, the more you live this way, the more people begin to notice. They won't always understand it. Some will admire you, some will resent you, but all will feel something different in your presence. They may not be able to explain it, but they'll know it's there. The calm, the focus, the gravity, because character doesn't need to speak loudly. It speaks through the way you carry yourself. That's the paradox of Stoic strength. The more silent it is, the more powerful it becomes. While others are chasing identity, you become it. While others are performing, you're transforming. Your life becomes the message, not the words, not the image, but the quiet force of who you are when everything else fades. Character also means you don't need to be perfect. You'll make mistakes. You'll fall short, but you'll own it. You'll learn. You'll correct yourself. You don't hide behind ego. You don't pretend to be above failure. You grow through it. That's real maturity. That's what makes you strong. Not that you never fall, but that you get up with integrity every time. The world today rewards quick wins, shortcuts, attention. But you're not here for that. You're not here to burn bright and disappear. You're here to endure, to become someone others can count on, someone who doesn't shift with the trends, someone whose values are not seasonal. And that kind of person, rare as they are, is remembered far longer than those who try to impress everyone for a moment. So how do you keep building when it's hard? You stay rooted in your principles. You remind yourself that what matters isn't how others see you, but how you see yourself when you're alone. You stop chasing comfort. You embrace the grind. You stop needing motivation and start practicing commitment. You become your own greatest ally and your own firmest critic. You forgive yourself, but you don't excuse yourself. That's the balance. That's the discipline, and slowly, everything begins to change. You no longer need to prove yourself. You no longer get pulled into petty arguments. You stop needing to control things that were never yours to control. You begin to walk through life with a kind of clarity that's hard to explain. Your peace becomes noticeable. Your restraint becomes powerful. Your silence becomes respected. Every time you read when you could have scrolled, every time you chose reflection over reaction, every time you stood alone for something right, every time you stayed patient when the world rushed you, every time you kept going when quitting was easier, you were becoming something unshakable. And when that day comes, when life hits you with something big, something unfair, something heavy, you'll find that you don't need to panic. You don't need to look outside yourself for strength. You've already built it, quietly, over years, in the dark, and now it's there, like armor, like a foundation beneath your feet, like a fire that no storm can put out. That's what it means to outsmart the world without stress. It means to become so rooted in who you are that nothing, not applause, not failure, not betrayal, can move you. You are no longer controlled by fear, no longer ruled by ego, no longer shaped by circumstances. You are shaped by your choices, your virtues, your discipline, and that is a kind of strength that the world cannot take from you. That is what makes you unshakable, not because you shouted louder, but because you stood firmer, not because you conquered others, but because you mastered yourself. In the end, the world will forget the noise, but it will remember the silence of those who lived with integrity. So, build that character, live it fully, and let the life you lead be the loudest thing about you. Remember this: strength does not need to raise its voice. The deepest power flows from within, steady and calm, untouched by the noise of the world. You do not have to compete for attention when you have already claimed mastery over yourself. In the eyes of the Stoics, the greatest victories are not public. They are private, earned in silence, sealed by discipline. To outsmart the world silently is not a trick. It is a way of life. It means choosing purpose over pride, stillness over reaction, and clarity over chaos. And when you live like this, the world begins to shift around you, not because you forced it, but because you no longer need anything from it. Let your calm become your message. Let your actions speak where your words are quiet. And if this path speaks to you, consider subscribing to walk it with us, step by steady step. Not for attention, but for alignment. Comment below with the words, "Quiet Strength." If you're building something that doesn't need to be seen to be real. Stay patient, Stay grounded. Your quiet work is becoming something powerful. In the next video, we'll go deeper into the tools that make this strength unshakable.